There's a body. There's a body.
There's a body inside?
Yeah.
Two people are found inside their own home without signs of life. There is no forced entry, no weapon is recovered, and the children inside the house are physically unharmed. Authorities quickly state this was not a self-inflicted situation, yet days later, there is still no arrest, no identified suspect, and no publicly confirmed motive. Investigators say this was a targeted incident, but they haven't explained who was targeted or why. So what do officials actually know? And what details remain unexplained? Because in this case, the gaps in the story may be more important than the answers we've been given. What we know is that concern began early that morning when Spencer Tepe, a dentist described by colleagues as reliable and punctual, did not arrive at work.
We're very concerned because this is very out of character. And we can't get in touch with his wife, which is probably the more concerning thing.
I can hear kids inside, and I swear I think I heard one yell.
What's changed since the last person I talked to?
For people who knew his routine, this immediately stood out as unusual. Multiple attempts to contact him were made, but there was no response. The same was true when calls were placed to his wife, Monique Tepe. According to publicly available information, hours passed without any communication from either of them. That silence led colleagues to request a welfare check, describing the situation as out of character and increasingly concerning. Later, additional calls were made after people at the residence reported hearing children inside the home, yet still receiving no response at the door. At that point, concern shifted into urgency. What we know is that when entry was eventually made, both adults were found inside the residence without signs of life. Authorities later confirmed the situation was being treated as a criminal investigation. What we do not know is the exact sequence of events inside the home before that moment. What happened first? What happened next? Or when communication with the outside world truly stopped? And that missing window of time may be one of the most important pieces investigators are still trying to understand. What we know is that investigators found no obvious signs of forced entry. No broken doors, no shattered windows, no visible damage that would clearly suggest someone forced their way inside. According to authorities, the home appeared intact from the outside, with no immediate indicators of a break-in. We also know that no weapon was recovered at the scene. Because of that detail, officials publicly ruled out a self-inflicted scenario early in the investigation and confirmed the case was being treated as a criminal matter. Investigators have also stated that nothing significant appeared to be missing from the home. There were no early indications of theft and no signs that the residence had been searched or disturbed in a way commonly associated with a burglary. What we do not know is how access to the home was gained. Was a door unlocked? Was access granted voluntarily? Or was there a method of entry that left no obvious trace? And until that question is answered, one of the most basic elements of the case remains unresolved. How someone entered the home without leaving behind clear evidence of how they got inside. What we know is that the couple's two young children were inside the home at the time of the incident. This detail has been confirmed by authorities and repeated in multiple official statements. Police have also emphasized that the children were found physically unharmed. That clarification has been made carefully and consistently, suggesting its importance in how investigators are framing the case. The children have since been placed in the care of relatives, and officials have stated that their immediate safety was secured. What has not been shared publicly is what the children may have experienced during that time. It remains unclear what they may have seen, what they may have heard, or how much they were able to understand in those early hours. Authorities have not confirmed whether the children were awake, asleep, or moved at any point during the incident. They have also not stated whether the children are able to provide information relevant to the investigation, or if they are considered potential witnesses in any capacity. And while the focus of the case remains on identifying who was responsible, this unanswered element continues to quietly shape the investigation behind the scenes. Because in situations like this, even small details, moments, sounds, or timelines can matter. Yet for now, officials have chosen not to release further information regarding this part of the case. What we know is that investigators released surveillance footage taken near the home during the time frame they believe the incident occurred. The video shows a single individual walking in the area, captured by a camera positioned some distance from the residence. The footage itself is limited. It shows clothing, posture, and movement, but no clear facial features, no identifying marks, and no confirmed identity. Police have described the individual only as a person of interest. They have not stated whether this person is considered a suspect, a witness, or simply someone who may have information relevant to the investigation. That distinction has been left intentionally open. What we know is that the footage has been shared publicly in the hope that someone may recognize the individual's clothing, movement, or presence in the area. We also know that as of now, no arrest has been made, no individual has been publicly named, no charges have been announced. What we do not know is who this person is. We do not know where they came from before appearing in the footage, or where they went after leaving the area. We also do not know why this individual was near the home during that specific time window, or whether their presence is directly connected to what happened inside. And until that gap is filled, this single figure remains one of the most visible and least explained elements of the entire case. What we know is that public statements from law enforcement suggest this case is being treated as a targeted incident rather than a random event. Officials have made it clear that they do not believe this was a situation involving chance or opportunity. According to publicly available information, there are no early indications that theft played a role. Nothing significant was reported missing from the home, and there were no visible signs that the residence had been searched or disturbed in a way commonly associated with robbery. Authorities have also not publicly confirmed the existence of prior threats, ongoing disputes, or known conflicts involving either individual. There has been no official information suggesting financial distress, professional disputes, or personal warnings leading up to that night. What we do not know is why this household was targeted. We do not know whether the focus was on one individual or whether both people inside the home were intended targets. We also do not know when or how such a decision would have been made, or what information investigators may be reviewing privately that has not yet been shared with the public. And without a confirmed motive, the case remains suspended between facts and unanswered questions. Because when investigators say an incident was targeted, the most important question becomes simple. Targeted by whom and for what reason? For now, that answer remains undisclosed. What we know is that digital evidence plays a central role in nearly every modern investigation. Devices, communication records, and location data often provide the most reliable timelines, especially when direct witnesses are limited. According to publicly available information, investigators are reviewing phones, messages, call logs, and digital activity connected to both individuals. This includes recent calls, unanswered messages, and any sudden gaps in communication. Location data may also be examined, helping authorities determine movements leading up to the final known moments and whether anything unusual appears in those records. Investigators are also likely reviewing surveillance footage beyond the single clip released to the public. Cameras from nearby homes, streets, and intersections may provide additional context, showing who entered the area, who left, and when. At the same time, officials are likely reconstructing the final hours of contact with friends, family members, and colleagues. Who was spoken to last, when communication stopped, and whether anything in those interactions stood out as unexpected. What we do not know is which detail, if any, will change the direction of the case. It may be a message that went unanswered, a location that doesn't align, or a moment on camera that only becomes significant in hindsight. And until that key detail surfaces, the investigation continues quietly, built around patterns, timelines, and digital traces that have yet to fully connect. What makes this case stand out is not only what happened, but what didn't. There were no obvious signs of forced entry, no weapon was recovered at the scene, and no immediate explanation was provided to the public. In many investigations, details begin to emerge quickly. In this one, they have not. Despite widespread attention and repeated questions, authorities have released very little additional information beyond the initial findings. No confirmed timeline has been fully outlined, no motive has been publicly explained, and no individual has been formally identified. What we know is that this type of silence is often intentional. Investigators may limit what they share to protect the integrity of the case, preserve evidence, or avoid influencing potential witnesses. What we do not know is what has already been uncovered behind the scenes. There may be information that cannot yet be released, details that only make sense once all pieces are in place, or leads that are still being carefully verified. And until those pieces come together, this case remains defined not by what has been revealed, but by what has been deliberately left unsaid. At this stage, the case exists in the space between confirmed facts and unanswered questions. What we know forms only a narrow outline. What we don't know fills in most of the picture. There are timelines without explanations, details without context, and moments that investigators are still carefully piecing together. For now, now the story remains unresolved. Not because there are no clues, but because the most important ones have not yet been made public. As the investigation continues, attention shifts from what has already been said to what has not. Because in cases like this, understanding often comes not from one dramatic reveal, but from a single detail that suddenly changes how everything else makes sense. In the next video, we'll focus on one specific element of this case, and why it may matter far more than it first appears. If you want to follow how this story continues to unfold, that's where we'll pick it up.